the king's knights carried specially made funeral banners. Then came the elaborate hearse, swathed in over 7 yards of black cloth of gold, and decorated by painters who had worked day and night to complete it. 4 knights reverently bore the coffin, covered with black cloth of gold and with a white cloth of gold cross upon it, over which there was a canopy held by 4 more knights. 4 earls, a marquis, barons, and yet more knights followed. Next came chaplains, preachers, those who were daily waiters upon the prince, even 2 knights whose job it was to ensure that the correct order of precedence was maintained among the congregation. Nothing was left to chance. The mourning robes themselves were graded in fabric and richness according to the rank of the wearers, the chief of whom wore hoods covering their heads. The king had chosen the child's resting place carefully. He was placed as near as possible to those previous kings whose ranks he could join only in death. He would never sit on St. Edward's chair with the crown on his head. He would lie on the left-hand side of the altar, close to the canopied tomb of Edmund Crouchback, the youngest son of Henry III, a few steps from the chapel of St. Edward. The customary, consoling words of the Latin burial service began. The coffin was ritually sprinkled with holy water and censed at each of the 4 sides, and as the echo of the final prayers and the antiphons led by the king's composer and musician, Robert Fairfax, faded away, everyone left the confines of the church. The monks could once again carry out their daily routines, uninterrupted by the formalities of state. And the baby could sleep. It was all so different from just 7 weeks earlier in 1511, when his birth was announced on New Year's Day. His parents were King Henry VIII of England and his queen, Catherine of Aragon. He was their first living child. They were still young, the king not yet 20, although Catherine was almost 6 years older, and both were delighted that the succession was now assured. The boy seemed healthy. There was every reason to believe that he would be joined by brothers and sisters in due course. Henry was so grateful, he rode to the shrine of Our Lady at Walsingham, Norfolk, to give thanks, a journey of about 200 miles. Bonfires were lit in the streets of London to celebrate the birth. Free wine provided for some lucky revellers. The happy news proclaimed throughout the kingdom and to the royal courts of Europe. The child was christened Henry after his father and grandfather, the first Tudor monarch. In the 2nd week of February, Henry VIII and Catherine attended 2 days of magnificent jousts in the child's honour at the Palace of Westminster. The Queen presided over the tournament serenely, secure in the knowledge that she had fulfilled her primary function as consort by producing a son. On the 2nd day, she presented the prizes to the victors, including one to her husband, for Henry joined the lists as the gallant, loyal heart. The chief nobles of the land were all there. No one imagined that the little prince would die just 10 days later and would lie in a grave not far from the tilt-yards. Nor could anyone have known then that Henry and Catherine would become only too familiar with grief. The king at first tried to hide his sorrow and comfort the Queen with thoughts of the family they would one day have, but despite her numerous pregnancies, and no matter how many long hours she spent in prayer, Catherine only managed to give birth to 1 child who lived to grow up, and that was a girl, Princess Mary. What use was she in a masculine age, when prowess on the battlefield could decide the success or ruin of a dynasty? Henry understood this only too well. There was little he would not do to gain the son he needed. In the process, his country was changed forever, and few of his subjects were untouched, and some were more affected than others. One of the knights who had jousted with the king on that carefree day, and who later helped carry the body of the tiny child, was Sir Thomas Boleyn, a courtier who was very much in favour with his sovereign. Thomas and his wife, Elizabeth Howard, had 2 daughters and a son. The girls' names were Anne and Mary, and their brother was George. When the mourners entered Westminster Abbey